So yeah, continuing from part one, you can easily make yourself very ill with magic. Um, you can also bring in difficult life circumstances. Like you can do something. So different rituals have like different particulars about them, right? So a ritual could do virtually anything. So some people just like take some spell off the internet and just try it. Like I would recommend just trying things, but I think you should understand a little bit at least before you just go and randomly try things. Although I'd say spells, the problem with spells isn't so much messing with your energy body. I guess I'll get to that later. Spells, that'll be the next thing. But yeah, you can mess your energy body up pretty bad with magic. So, um, another way that you can mess up your energy body is channeling. So when a lot of people I've noticed will kind of pick one daemon or a few and really invite these beings and their energy in, and then it's like they're just a face of that being, like a clone of that being here on Earth. They're really projecting that being's energy here. So I think it's debatable how problematic this actually is, but you're you're not really you. You're now more some other being. You're sort of married to this other being, in a way, energetically. Some people literally marry themselves to a being. Of course, not legally or anything, but there's a different kind of bond where they're actually married to to daemon of like, they call it god spousing now. So it's like they do this with Loki or Hades or Persephone or any number of these. This actually has a lot of precedent in the occult, especially in like Eastern tradition and like the tantric goddesses. You would enter into a marriage with them sometimes, or uh, like guru or not gurus, but people doing like sadhanas or whatever, sadhus, something. I don't know. I'm sort of spacing on the word for it now, of those who get into a marriage with like you know Chinnamastama or Kalima or whoever, or Dumavati or any of these. So yeah, but that's a new thing, and I kind of cringe at it because I don't know how much knowledge these people really have about these sort of things. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna assume a lot. I'm gonna assume they have a lot of gnosis and they've carefully parceled it out, or they just have that previous life like feel for it, of like, oh, I've done this before. Okay, let's keep doing what we're doing before, and relying on that soul knowledge that carries on over lifetimes. But I think back in the days of witchcraft and like, the mystery religions before that, I think it really wasn't that different. I think it's like the new age channeling movement now. Oh, something out there is paying attention to us, you know. Let's really put a lot of attention on it and worship it and change everything about our lives, our families, our societies, the way we do everything, the way we go about warfare, the way we go about agriculture, the way we go about health, to this being, because it talked to us. And so that's a danger in the cult now, but I don't know how big of a liability it actually is, because a lot of these beings just don't seem to be really like having any malicious, and they don't seem to really have such a huge malicious intent that crystallizes as something malicious to us in the immediate present, or yeah. And there's just so many beings with so many different wills, that different plans and agendas, that it kind of all cancels each other out a little bit. And then there's like grand plans of like, so supposedly there's a big fight between good and evil in the universe. I don't know if that's actually true. um to me, like when I communicate with different beings and whatnot, I just see so many different groups doing so many different things. Um, is that just how it is outside of our neighborhood, but in our neighborhood, it's good versus evil? I don't know, you know. um, but I've seen a lot of like information that uh, that it is more like the fight, the struggle between good and evil that I definitely think about. I mean, the Bible for one. Um, Hinduistic texts kind of like the Srimad Bhagavatam, for example. Okay, there's demons and and there's angels, there's devas and asuras, but then at the same time there's those who follow Krishna and those who don't. So, and then even as a demon, there's ways as a demon you can find salvation through Krishna. But salvation is completely a different paradigm than in Christianity. So Hinduism kind of has the good versus evil thing going on, but it's more complicated than that. And it also appears to have been different like iterations of it in the past. Like it talks about how like when Indra first came to power, he had to fight Vritrasura, and he had to fight Varuna and some other big demons as well. Because Varuna is, I forget if he's a Daitya or a Danava. It's basically like Mer and Titans, like giant Mer people and Titans. So collectively, you could see the Daityas and Danavas as being the Hindu analog to Titans in Greek mythology. So basically, that's what Varuna is. And Indra had to defeat all of them. And Vritrasura was a pure devotee of Krishna's, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he's like hyping Indra up, like, you can defeat me, just try. Like, Krishna wills that I'll lose and you'll win. So just try. You have to do your duty to the universe and everything. And Vritrasura again was a demon. So it's really a very different paradigm than Abrahamic religions, where there's the good guys that tell all truth and are all good and work in strange ways, but it's also kind of like there's things they definitely won't do or are incapable of doing because they're all pure good, so they can't do evil. Whereas like Krishna told what's his name, the godchild of Dharma, Yudhishthira, Maharaj Yudhishthira. Krishna told him to lie, and he's like, I can't lie, and I guess he probably had some bad karma from that or something. Or like the Pandavas all shared one wife, sort of, which isn't exactly true because it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when someone marries a princess, they actually get her 10 handmaidens as well, who they're all expected to give at least one child. So it's not really like so it's like when it comes to royalty, it's immediately polygamy. So I think that's interesting. Also because like it kind of reminds me of Jacob, how he marries Rachel and Leah, but actually each of them had a handmaiden. So actually he had 4 wives. So, and Leah was super prolific, and Rachel, constantly wasn't. I don't know. I found that story really interesting. Also an interesting image of true will and like true love being true will. That okay, Leah only had 2 children out of the 12 from his 4 wives, but they were the ones that kept it going. Like Joseph and Benjamin were her children. When Israel fell to like Babylon or whatever. No. When the kingdom was divided into Israel and Judah, Judah comes from one of her children. So it's like true love, true will then create the right circumstances. Will continue on. Will, you know what I'm trying to say? It creates a current of the divine will of what the real intention is, right? Because Jacob intended to marry uh, Rachel, but he had to marry Leah first because he was tricked by Laban. Um, and all of her kids and all of the handmaidens' kids all turned their backs on God eventually in the Bible. So in a metaphorical way, you could see this as being a very cool image of true will, but that's kind of coding it like Thelemic, like right now. I don't I don't know. I think it's a really interesting pattern to look back at, and I think even using the word true will is a more advanced thing that we've been given now to understand what came before. So I wouldn't necessarily say free will is a new thing, but it's a new way of looking at it that I think is more powerful. Definitely, I'd say now we've been given things we didn't have before. Anyways, that was a huge tangent. Um, that was a huge tangent off of good and evil. But I think actually it kind of fits too because yeah, it kind of relates though because it's like true will on a spiritual level kind of makes whatever the right thing. And following true will and following God is kind of the same idea. And those who don't follow true will are sort of outside of they're outside of love, of divine love. And that's a big deal. But then of course people who practice that are in their true will clash at times. And certainly people who are in true will, who have faith in the universe or in themselves or whatever, um certainly they have people in their orbit that aren't in their true will. Probably most people aren't in true will. So it's when you talk about those who are spiritually inclined versus those who are spiritually inclined in their true will, etc., are very few, and those who are not into spirit, are not following their true will uh I, I'm not sure if Jesus is saying all of those people will be completely destroyed. Like, is he saying that after the process of reincarnating so many times, that when the yugas all run out and the universe is destroyed, that their souls will be annihilated? Is that what he means when he says that the chaff will be burned? That there's a sorting of the wheat and the chaff? I mean, it kind of seems like Revelation is supposed to come soon enough. Was he talking about Revelation then? So it's a puzzle. I mean, destroying souls. Absolutely, it's a thing. In Hinduism and in Buddhism. So to me, the heavy hitters are in agreement that yeah, soul can absolutely be destroyed and be reabsorbed into all that is, without any kind of individuality. And of course, Buddhism. Some people in Buddhism actually desire that. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a badass notion that like ah. Anyways, so that's like the tall. I feel that's the tall order of the binary is those who love God and those who don't, as Jesus was. Uh I think there's a lot of ways to interpret Jesus. So that's the way it was taught to me. I kind of have my own ideas about what it means exactly. But then of course the binary of good and evil, like Old Testament style of like, okay, some people are doing God's will in a very large material way. And so it's kind of like, the followers of Astaroth and Moloch and all these other pagan gods, Dagon, all the different tribes and uh, and ites that follow these gods, and then there's us that follow the true God that are going to absolutely genocidally murder all of these groups, because God told us so, because they're evil, quote unquote. So I think that makes it sticky for like in Western esoterics to look back at the Bible and then say that Christianity is the good and some other thing is the bad. Although some people kind of almost, I feel like they're getting at that, like in the occult, that the New Testament Jesus was against the Old Testament and the Pharisees and everything else, and that's the point of the rivalry between Jesus and the Pharisees, is that he's going against what came before, um, and then uh, that's why he says you don't know what you worship to the Pharisees, or you don't know who you serve. That's what he said. And then he said one other thing that people used to say that he was actually against the Old Testament, but he said he didn't come to destroy the law but to fulfill it in another verse. So, you can argue about redactions and stuff, but then at that point, it just, if things were added to the rote of Scripture, I could see taking Mark seriously and not the other Gospels, or taking Mark and John seriously and not the other Gospels. But I think if we're saying like the Gospels were actually like changed a lot, then it's like, well, if something sounds good, I guess it's cool, but really you're just saying it, because if you don't take the authenticity of Scripture seriously, then what can really be said from it? Because if you say one verse shouldn't be in, then why should another verse be in? And there's like the longer ending of Mark, which it doesn't appear in older manuscripts and stuff like that. That's a different story, but like apparently there is some trend of people picking and choosing which verses sort of personify the Jesus that they would like to, the way they'd like him to be. I mean, but actually I saw that in Protestantism, or in the Protestant faith, often enough, in the sense that um, I think Jesus says some things that then you could look at and see like some kind of guilt, like the Beatitudes. Okay, we'll never be meek or humble in spirit and meek and all these other things to such an extent. Like, I don't know. I think people misinterpret these things. I think I look at everything from the occult. And I use the occult to sort of look at spirituality. And I made the mistake of seeing the occult as being spirituality, or magic as being spirituality, but it's not. It's the astral plane, and then above the astral plane is like the mental plane and the spiritual plane. So spirituality is a very obtuse thing that's not, it's not the same as magic. Magic is a material thing, but a lot of the fuel for magic is spiritual, and just like a lot of the fuel for material things are spiritual. And so matter, uh, the vital astral ether, the mind, and the spirit are all, like, spirit pervades mind, that pervades the ether, that pervades matter. So it's all one big soup. Um, and going into like higher planes, you're not physically higher. You're just in a higher realization of what already is right here. So that's pretty cool. See, that's the occult that I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about like, okay, I do a lot of more advanced stuff and whatnot, but I think intrinsically, like, the biggest thing is to understand that there is something deeper than the matter, that there is this ether, and then the mind controls the ether, and then spirit is even superior to mind, and free will is kind of the bridge, or true will is the bridge between all of those levels. And like, that's so powerful to know. So I think that's so intrinsic in magic and the occult, and I think it's something I wish more people understood, that sort of thing. And I mean, it's not like I fully understand it, but yeah. So, and I think if there is some realization, if there is some part of you or someone that understands that there is this sort of multi-layered sort of reality of existence, then a lot of these occult things are just, I mean, some of it, if you understand these things, if you've been opened up to understand these things, to see these things, to interact with these things, which just is the true nature of existence, then some occult things are basic survival skills, you know. So uh, I guess that's why I'm saying there's a lot of things I think that are a little bit uh I think that's where you should live in the occult, in magic. I think you should live in this experience of trying to touch something higher, to try and look higher, to try and perceive in a higher way, to activate parts of yourself that are higher. To me, I view it as a mode of elevation, of elevating the self at the deepest level. So